My name is Junu Phillips, and I'm a music journalist with Bob City Beats, a local music blog here in Chicago. Oh, cool.
What kind of car do you like?
I like cars. I like sports cars. You know, as much as I look at cars as a pure utility, I like ones that kind of represent status symbols too. So, you know, in the summertime, I like seeing cars that got a convertible on them. I live in California. You know, I always wanted to have a Jeep. You know, I rode the truck like a CJ5 or a CJ7, you know, like ragtop, take the whole thing off and you roll down the beach. Sporty looking cars, you know, and you know, like luxury vehicles too. You know, I think that as much as they can be played out, you know, a sharp looking Benz or a Beamer, you know, still turns heads on the street.
Do you think there's a generational shift to car ownership?
Definitely a generational shift. I'd say in the last 10 years, maybe even less than that, like my generation has probably been a big part of like why the car industry I think has struggled. So I think for the first time ever, you know, most people in the generation are looking at cars as more of a utility rather than a status symbol. You know, people want to be able to get to point A and point B with the least amount of hassle as possible, as cheap as possible. So you look at the SUV, it's really becoming extinct, especially in the metropolitan areas where it used to be just a cool thing to drive an SUV, but they don't need them anymore. They're big and they're bulky and they're slow and they get terrible gas mileage. And so now people want what's easiest and what's cheapest. So I think that's the biggest change that you've seen too, is that people just want something that's quick and easy. They're not worried about driving the flashy car, you know, the Beamer, the Benz, even though I love them. You know, they're not all that concerned with driving them. And the only people I think you really see to drive those, they really have the disposable income to kind of throw away on a car. But if you don't, you know, that's the last thing you think about is like what it looks like.
Do you think cars are important?
They serve a purpose. I don't know if they're important though. Get people around, point A to point B, but I could live without one. So I guess it's not that important to me, but for some folks I'm sure it's pretty important.
Would you ever buy an American car?
You know what, I would say no, but I've bought 3 American cars. I'd like to think I've learned from my mistakes. I think that moving forward, I'd probably shy away from it, but they seem to be normally the ones that are probably the most affordable for me. So in hindsight, you know, I realize that, you know, it's not usually what my goal would be is to buy one, but it would be more than likely I probably will, but it's not ideal, and I probably wouldn't be all that happy with it.
Do you think American car companies should have been bailed out?
No, they should not have been bailed out. I would like a bailout if we can make that happen. But, you know, we kind of gotten used to it. I mean, you know, it happened in the financial industry this year. In the last couple of years, they got a bailout, and there's always going to be deep ties with companies that have that much influence, you know, with politicians. And, you know, that's something I think we just have to get used to. That's going to happen. I don't think it should have happened, but I'm not surprised that it did.
Tell me about the green movement in the automotive industry. What do you think about it?
You know, I think it's a good thing. You know, I'm sure that the automotive industry would probably say otherwise, but right now it's a society where people are really conscious about, you know, what's going on in the environment. So cars that are hybrids. When I lived on the West Coast, you know, a lot of cars that ran on diesel or, you know, corn syrup. And, you know, in big metropolitan areas, most people are taking public transportation. So a lot of people are biking and walking to work and taking trains and buses. So that's definitely changed things a lot. And for those that are still buying cars, they're really looking to see what they can do to keep things green. So I think it's a good thing. It's nice to see that people are, you know, are doing what they can to make a change. And yeah, overall, I think it's good.
Do you see any limitations on electric vehicles?
It was funny. I watched a documentary a while back, and it was called "Who Killed the Electric Car," and really fascinating. It was about a time period where they started to make just a handful of electric cars over about a 1-year period, and they were only available to an exclusive amount of people. And you know, just based on the research that was done of like how much it definitely could have changed and how quickly they went off the market was really interesting, considering they're the one, you know, GM was the one that put it out there, and they were the ones that took it off. And you know, as a documentary, kind of chased them around and saw that these cars essentially weren't recalled for any reason. They were pulled off the market. They were brought into a junkyard in the middle of Arizona, and then they were just gone. You know, and after seeing something like that, you would think, like, why wouldn't people drive more things like this? It actually is more, obviously they make it prohibitively expensive, and it's a lease. You can't re-up your lease. And you know, I mean, the automotive industry is tied into the oil industry, which kind of makes the planet spin. So not surprised it went away, but I sure wish it would have come back.
Do you think GM made a mistake by getting rid of Pontiac?
Man, I would say, so as a Pontiac owner, it was frustrating to see the second I owned my car and put that time into it. You have 7 years of cars that got recalled, you know, for spark plugs, and you know, and it's, you know, I've always felt like the car's been pretty reliable, you know, and I think Pontiac I think it's a bread and butter brand, you know, when it comes to the United States and driving. So I've always, you know, even though I've had the troubles with my car, you know, I think it's gotten the job done, and I like it. I think it's too bad, you know, since Pontiac is kind of an institution, you know, in the United States. So I think it's unfortunate that they got rid of it.
Why do you think Germany makes better cars than anyone else?
Man, that's a great question. I've never really asked why things seem to be not as well made when it comes to cars in the United States, but I don't know if they just take more time with it. I don't know if it's, you know, they don't make a large group of cars, maybe not for, like, could be quality over quantity. I guess I never really asked that question. I think you just kind of go based on assumption and the fact that, you know, cars that are mass produced in the United States, it's done on volume and they're pushed out as quickly as possible. And it's like, how quickly we get them to the American public, how quickly can we get them in the seat of this car? And I'm sure that probably has something to do with it. And Germany has a select, you know, set of cars that they put out, and there's fine detail, I think, with each and every one. And so to them, I think it's much more about quality rather than quantity.
Are you into motorcycles?
Yeah, I am into motorcycles. My dad used to drive a 74 Sportster, Harley Davidson. He's short and stocky, and he's got a mustache. He looks like he's made to be on a Harley Davidson t-shirt. So I've always been big into motorcycles. My mom was not, you know, and I used to ride in the back of the motorcycle with my dad, just being, obviously he was against it just purely based on the fact of for safety reasons. And I still agree that they're incredibly dangerous, you know, to be on, considering most of the people that ride them probably shouldn't be on the road anyways. You know, they're just, you know, showboating and whatnot. So, you know, it's, even with a lot of training on a motorcycle, I think it's, you know, it's enjoyable and it's fun, but you know, I think they scare me just as much as I like them.
What's the ugliest car on the road today?
PT Cruiser, probably in gold, purple, or canary yellow, or orange. I don't understand who in production, when they were like putting together the blueprint, be like, hey, what is the ugliest car that we can put out there that people would still buy? I'm pretty sure all answers point towards a PT Cruiser. There's nothing about that car that is attractive. Probably including the sticker price on it too.
What do you think your next car might be?
That's a good question. I think I'm going to drive the current car that I have for a while, or at least until it dies. I drive a Pontiac Grand Prix, but I'd like to think I'm going to take a step forward, and the Acura TL, I would really like to own one of those at some point in my life, preferably before, you know, I have children and I won't be able to drive that kind of car anymore. So that'll be the next car. It's real slick. It's got some speed to it. It's fun. That would like to be my next car.
Manual or automatic?
Manual.
Coupe or convertible?
Coupe.
Driver or passenger?
Passenger.
EV, hybrid, gas, or diesel?
Hybrid.
Classic or modern?
Classic.
American or European?
European.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.